All right. Ben Shapiro interviews the vice president over the government shutdown. Israel storms Greta's Gaza flotilla. And AsmonGold returns to the internet officially, because he's been here and there. But anyway, I'm Alfie Animus, and this is the Associated Guess here at Bear in Mind. But we'll get started. I haven't watched this. I wanted my first time to be with y'all. So if it has nothing of value, I don't apologize. Because you knew what you were getting into when you clicked on this. Most of you. All right, let's get into it.
On the line right now is the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance. Mr. Vice President, thanks so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Of course, likewise. Thank you, Ben.
So let's start with the news of the day. Obviously, the government shutdown is on. Democrats have decided that they would rather that a bunch of workers get furloughed and or fired than something. It seems unclear exactly what they want at this point. Can you clarify what exactly they are asking for in order to avert a government shutdown?
Yeah, so it's a great question because their demands have changed a little bit. If you go back even a couple of months ago, the Democrats were basically saying we have to shut down the government because Donald Trump is a fascist, and to allow him to have an open government would be to be complicit in whatever bad things Donald Trump is doing. So that was obviously childish and ridiculous. They updated their demands a couple of weeks ago, and they actually sort of put forward this $1.5 trillion spending plan for 3 months of the government being open, and hundreds of billions of dollars of that was literally, we want to give taxpayer-funded healthcare benefits to illegal aliens. Now, that's, of course, preposterous. Yeah. And so now, even though last night they still support the taxpayer-funded benefits for illegal aliens, they've now added a third demand on top of that, which is that they want us to work on the premium support for Obamacare, which doesn't even run out until next year. So the basic argument, as far as I can do, you're asking me to sort of get into the heads of Democrats, which is always a dangerous thing to do. The best way I can present this argument from Senate Democrats, Ben, is that for a program that doesn't expire until next year, they want to shut the government down now. And if we don't give them everything they want, from taxpayer-funded benefits for illegal aliens to everything else on the healthcare front, they're going to keep the government shut down. I don't think that's a tenable situation. I think you saw some moderate Democrats crack even last night. And just on that, this is actually a very important point, because if you go back to yesterday afternoon in the Oval Office, I was talking with the president and some of our legislative team. He said, how many votes do you think we'll get? I said, well, we'll get nearly every Republican to keep the government open, but we'll probably get one Democrat to keep the government open too. We actually got 3. And so you already see, I think, the Democrats cracking a little bit, because they realize it's such a preposterous position to say, we're going to shut down TSA, we're going to not pay our troops because you guys won't give us benefits for illegal aliens. It's crazy, and I don't think true. it's a tenable policy.
Which is 100% true. I'm not going to get too into it right now. I want him to get into it, but that's what they want. They want to give healthcare, free healthcare, to illegal aliens. That is not false. That is fact. Even go back to the DNC. Hold on, I have a little clippy here. I think I saved it. Yes. We'll just go right here.
This is a show of hands question, and hold them up for a moment. So,
mind you, this is the DNC for I want to say, or the DNC primary for 2020, I believe. But let's.
A lot of you have been talking tonight about these government health care plans that you've proposed in one form or another. This is a show of hands question, and hold them up for a moment so people can see.
Yes, hold them up so
people
can see.
If your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants.
That's all of them, including Biden, Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris. I think Buttigieg is in there. All of them, except for I don't think Tulsi Gabbard put her hand up, and I don't think Andrew Yang put his hand up.
Okay. Let me start.
Oh, because they were already gone.
A lot of you have been talking tonight about.
But every single one of them Every single one of them put their hand up. Simply stunning. This is what they want. And it's just like, they want one of two things. They want the shutdown to make the right even more opposed to illegal immigration, as if it couldn't already be, or they want them to get free health care. I don't have free health care. I've lived here my whole life. No one who's lived here their whole life really has free health care. The healthcare system is messed up because the Democrats and the Republicans use it as a tool to keep us divided. That's a horrible freeze frame face. But anyway, let's continue.
Political situation for them to be in.
So, Mr. Vice President, one of the things the legacy media have been picking on you for specifically, but the administration in general, is the claim that you're making that they want taxpayer benefits for illegal immigrants. They suggest, of course, that it's against the law for federal taxpayer dollars to go to illegal immigrants. But the truth is something different. They are trying to revise the terms of the One Big Beautiful Bill, specifically the terms that have to do with restricting the amount of state aid that can be reimbursed by the federal government that goes to illegal immigrants. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So there's always a sleight of hand. The Democrats play tricks with words here, but there are two very specific ways, and you can look at the legislative text, two specific ways in which the Democrats are asking us to give taxpayer-funded health care benefits for illegal aliens. The first of which is, if you're an American citizen and you've been to a hospital in the last 4 or 5 years, you probably notice wait times are especially long, and there's a very good chance that there's a person who's ahead of you in line who is an illegal alien. The reason that is because under the Biden administration, we would pay all of the hospital benefits for illegal aliens if they went to an American hospital. Now, that's bad for American citizens who want to use those services. It's also bad for American taxpayers who don't want to pay for illegal aliens to use those services. So we turned that program off in President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill. The Democrats want to turn it back on, and that would cost, again, hundreds of billions of dollars. There's a second way they want to pay for health care benefits for illegal aliens. And to get into the weeds a little bit, if you remember, the Biden administration did mass parole. So they took millions of illegal aliens. They would wave the magic wand of amnesty and say, no, these are no longer illegal aliens. They are now parolees because we're not going to deport them. And then they would give those parolees health care benefits funded by taxpayers. We turned that off as well, and Democrats want to turn it back on. So it's just a matter of fact. As much as they try to change the words that they use and hide from the reality of the policy, it's a matter of fact that there are two programs that total hundreds of billions of dollars, taxpayer-funded health care benefits for illegal aliens. The Trump administration turned it off. Democrats want to turn it back on. And it's not just that we have a policy disagreement here. As crazy as that one is, it's not just they want to turn those benefits for illegal aliens back on. It's that they're willing to say that our troops aren't going to get paid until Donald Trump relents and turns those benefits for illegal aliens back on. It's preposterous. It's bad policy. But we also are not going to negotiate with hostages here, which is why the government is shut down right now, because the Democrats have taken it hostage. And if they want to turn it back on, there is a clean, easy piece of...
And I'm not going to lie, this is probably one of the more ridiculous shutdowns I've seen. This is what the Democrats want and all the Republicans want, is to pass most of the provisions so they can continue the discussion on healthcare cost. And that's it, which seems reasonable to me.
The legislation that nearly every Republican supports. They should just vote for it, turn the government back on, and then we can have the debate about health care policy that they seem to want to have.
So, Mr. Vice President, can you tell us a little bit about the sort of threat that's been issued by the administration that some of the people who are being furloughed may just not come back? Obviously, the administration has been very practical in its use of executive power in order to cut the size and scope of government. That's what DOJ originally was about. The president has, of course, gone into every area of the federal government looking for places to cut waste, fraud, and abuse. And the president himself has said that this may be an opportunity to do more of that, even though Democrats are the ones initiating the shutdown. Can you give us some details as to what that means?
Yeah, of course, Ben, we'd love to cut the size of government more. We'd actually love to cut the amount of money that the government's spending even more. But we're not going to shut down the government to get our policy priorities. That's basically all what we're asking the Democrats to do is, look, let's have that policy disagreement. Let's not shut the government down over it. But to answer your specific question, I mean, what's basically happened here is that the Democrats are saying we're going to shut the government down. And we're saying, well, look, if you're going to shut the government down, we have to ensure that as many essential services as possible still function. I mean, there are obviously a lot of things that you and I would say the government shouldn't be doing at all, but there are critical things like the TSA, like air traffic control, like our military getting paid. And if we have to furlough workers or we have to do a lot of other things in order to ensure those essential services, as many of them as possible, remain turned on for the American people, that's what we're going to do. And so the Democrats are saying, well, Donald Trump wants to fire hundreds of thousands of people. No, we want to make sure the government, as much as possible, still functions. And if we have to cut some fat in order to ensure that's possible, well, the Democrats shouldn't have shut down the government and put us in this position to begin with.
As we've discussed, Mr. Vice President, it's pretty obvious that the Democrats have shifted their rationale for a government shutdown for months here. They're looking for an excuse.
I just want to point out, considering the amount of podcasters and just general political pundits that are out there, people who do any interviews, isn't it crazy to consider the time crunch that all politicians, especially the high-level ones, have? Or even the time crunch of people like this trying to interview all these people. It's got to be nuts. Thank God for the internet and the fact that we can do all this, stream it over the internet. It's crazy. Anyway.
It seems that they are enthralled to a far-left base that seems to want conflict no matter what. And as you mentioned, there are 3 senators, all of them are in swing states who are Democrats, who have decided they didn't want to go along with that. Are you seeing any more wiggle room from Democrat leadership even this far, as far as trying to get off of this particular issue? Because it's not a political winner for them. The polls are showing 60% disapproval for this government shutdown.
Yeah, so I think there are about 24 Senate Democrats who don't want to shut down the government and privately admit that their negotiating position is ridiculous. Effectively, give us everything that you want or we're going to shut down the government. They recognize that's a ridiculous position. So the Democrats are starting to show some signs of folding a little bit. I don't know how long they hold out. I don't think it's going to be much more than a couple of weeks at most. But look, we're going to keep on working with everybody, right? We want to open up the government. We want to actually solve some of these issues. So we're going to keep on working with them. But I don't think that they have a ton of fight in them, Ben, because their negotiating position is so ridiculous. There are different ways you can answer the question.
And I love how videos of this person called Charles Schumer from the 90s, I think he should debate that Chuck Schumer fella.
Of why is the government shut down? I mean, as you and I talk, the government is shut down. Why is that? Well, one answer is because Senate Democrats are trying to take the American economy hostage. A much more practical political answer to the question is because Chuck Schumer doesn't want a primary challenge from AOC. So what's happening is that the far left faction of one body of Congress is actually holding the entire government hostage because Chuck Schumer is terrified that if he does the right thing, if he does what 80% of the American people want him to do, then AOC is going to have a successful primary challenge. That's no way to run a government. Chuck Schumer should deal with his own political problems in his own way, but he shouldn't take the American economy hostage to do it.
Speaking of Chuck Schumer, I want to introduce y'all to Charles. Asking for ID was racist and wrong.
This is an anti-illegal immigrants or others from coming here. And the number one answer we give our constituents is when they come here, they can get jobs, get benefits against the law because of fraud. And here, the gentleman from Florida has put together the most effective anti-fraud measure we can find without it changing the actions of the government one bit. And we find all this opposition. Ladies and gentlemen of this chamber, what I worry about is that this bill, which started out with good intentions, whether you agree with it or disagree with it, is going to end up being the same kind of thing that the public gets angry with us on. We say we're doing something, and we do nothing.
What?
Because every time someone makes a rational and small proposal to get something done,
certainly not Democrats,
people say, well, what about this hypothetical, that hypothetical, etc. I urge support of this amendment. If you believe you want to stop fraud in immigration, you have no choice but to support this amendment.
Gentlemen.
It's crazy. Crazy how people change over the years. Chuck Schumer is, in fact, the perfect personage, the personification of the decline of the Democrat Party, my Democrat Party.
Now, Mr. Vice President, it definitely is a rarity to watch a government shutdown in which the party shutting down the government is shutting it down because they want to spend a lot more money. And typically, when we've seen government shutdowns over the course of the last decade, it's been Republicans who are pushing for less spending and saying that they want to sort of revise the bargain so that we are going not as far into debt. Democrats here are saying they want to basically overrule whatever spending cuts happened in the one big beautiful bill because they lost that particular legislative fight. And now they're trying to reverse that by shutting down the government to get more spending, which is definitely a unique take on the situation.
It's a very unique take on the situation, Ben, and it's a preposterous number if you look at what they're asking. I mean, this is what's called a continuing resolution. It just continues spending at the level that it currently exists today, which, again, Ben, I would like it to be lower, but we're not going to take the American economy hostage over these disagreements. So we're trying to keep the government open basically for about 3 months. That's it. And in order to keep the government open for 3 months, the Democrats are saying, give us literally $1.5 trillion of new spending. That is the price. So they've taken their hostage, and their price is $1.5 trillion of new spending. Again, like we talked about, a lot of which goes to health care benefits for illegal aliens. So it's bad policy. It's actually bad fiscal management. Republicans want to cut the amount of money that the government is wasting. Democrats want to increase it, and they're willing to shut down the government for their very ridiculous demands. That's why it's such a losing position politically.
Well, Mr. Vice President, I know you've got a very busy day. Hopefully that will involve negotiations with more reasonable Democrats. Thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Ben. Take care.
Okay, that wasn't nearly as informative as I was hoping it was going to be. But, you know, it is what it is. Let's see if he follows up with a little bit more as far as his own personal information. And if not, we'll move on to story number 2 for today.
Well, there's a constant suggestion that during a government shutdown, everybody gets fired. The entire government shuts down. You know, everyone dies, just like during net neutrality. So I asked our friends and sponsors over at Comet, a project of Perplexity, what percentage of the federal workforce continues to work during a government shutdown? And the answer is during a government
On a payday, it can be harrowing. Like, what is today? So, yeah. And it especially sucks because, yes, tomorrow is the first Friday of the month, which, of course, is going to be the first payday of the month for military members. So, of course, this happens 2 days before payday. So our military will not have much money this weekend, but like I said, if the government shutdown does continue into next weekend, usually some of the military support groups will scrap together and make sure that our military members do get paid by next weekend. It usually takes about that long because, you know, you hope that it'll just happen, but unfortunately it won't. And then they'll resume with their regular pay, hopefully by, you know, the other, because the military gets paid twice a month, I believe. So on the 1st and 15th, whatever Friday is the closest to it without going over or sooner.
And departments like Veteran Affairs and Treasury furlough less than 5% of their employees, keeping pretty much everybody working. So, I mean, it kind of feels like, you know, a government shutdown is mostly the stuff you need and kind of gets rid of a lot of the stuff you don't. Now, apparently the Trump administration is continuing along the lines of saying, listen, if there is a shutdown, then I guess we'll fire people. Here's what President Trump had to say about that. He says a shutdown means not like what Democrats thought it meant when there was a shutdown where they were shutting down services in order to harm the American people and make it uncomfortable. Trump's basically like, you know what? You want to shut down the government and furlough the government? Some of those people ain't coming back.
You
a lot of
all
them
know
resigned.
Russell Vogt. He's become very popular recently because he can trim the budget to a level that you couldn't do any other way. So they're taking a risk by having a shutdown because of the shutdown, we can do things medically and other ways, including benefits. We can cut large numbers of people out. We don't want to do that, but we don't want fraud, waste, and abuse.
Definitely not.
Okay, so the president then went
I don't
on
like the way he
to
phrased
describe his
that.
take on why
It
the
makes it
Democrats are
sound
shutting
really
down the
bad.
government. This is sort of the big question here because by the polling data, this is a terrible move for Democrats, truly. There's a brand new poll out of YouGov, I believe, that suggested that 60% of Americans think it's a bad idea for Democrats to shut down the government. President Trump says the goal here for Democrats is to continue subsidies for illegal immigrants, among others.
Yes, that is
we could
one of
come
the
up
primary
and
goals they
through this whole thing, because I don't know, we'll probably have a shutdown because one of the things they want to do is they want to give incredible Medicare, the Cadillac Medicare to illegal immigrants. And what that does is it keeps them coming into our
just goes
country.
Cadillac.
And like they do in California. And no country can afford that. No country.
So what is the actual issue here? Democrats say it's about additional ACA subsidies. That'd be the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare subsidies. So what exactly are the subsidies? Well, back in 2021, the Biden administration decided to subsidize everybody who's making up to 400% of the federal poverty level. 400%. Just cut them a government check. Not 100% of the poverty, 400% of the poverty level, which definitionally means not poverty level. According to the Wall Street Journal, premium tax credits are a form of government subsidy that caps the maximum percentage of household income an individual pays toward their ACA health coverage. In 2021, the Biden administration expanded eligibility for the tax credits and increased subsidy amounts. The enhanced provisions eliminated the prior income cap for